All right, so guys, we are going to talk about what is Git and what is GitHub. I think if I would have taken some sessions. So in that case, I would have surely asked you guys to read about what's the difference. So fine, I'll explain to you what's the difference, how to use Git, and the basic workflow of Git, and what the different terminologies that we use in Git are. All right. So first thing that you guys would have seen is something that I refer to called as GitHub. Okay? And there is another thing called as Git. Okay? So there are two different things. One is Git and one is GitHub. All right. And we'll start with what is Git. So Git is basically, let's say, if you have worked on Git or have not worked, doesn't matter. So when you are working in a team, so let's suppose there is a file or a piece of code that you are modifying or that you're working on, all right? And now you do some changes, and what happens is your changes, who does what changes, first of all, that needs to be tracked, like which person modified the file, plus when the person has modified, plus one more thing happens, let's say two people are working on the same file. So if they try to submit or
yeah, sorry to interrupt, Gaurav, but someone is unmuted, and due to that, voice is very fluctuating.
Now everyone's
Yes, it's okay.
Fine. So okay. So Git is basically used for having a system where multiple people can work on a single piece of code, or maybe a bunch of files, or maybe a huge repository of. All right, that's for the tool for that is Git. And GitHub is a platform where they are providing services related to Git and many services on top of that, apart from. So GitHub is a platform. GitHub is not the only platform with Git-based hosting service. There is other thing also. I have heard its name. Never used it though, which is called as GitLab. Okay, this is also a thing which allows features similar to GitHub, and yeah. So, but they are built on top of this Git software or this Git thing. Okay? Which Git is called as a distribution version control system for tracking changes in source code. That's the major idea behind Git. And the second thing is it's designed for coordinating work among programmers. That's one very important. Okay. What we'll do is we'll start with using it, and I'll explain you the different terms that are there, so that when I'm using these terms and when you use those terms in future, things become quite clear to you. All right. So let's do one thing first. Let's go to GitHub and let's go to small Git. So Git is a free and open source distributed version control system for handling large projects and something. And yeah, I'll upload or I'll give this PPT maybe to you guys. So there's some official videos from Git as well, from the Git team as well, regarding what is version control and everything. So after this session, maybe you would like to have a look into that. I haven't seen those videos, so I don't know what exactly is there, but they would give you a basic overview. And that's the official video, so I think it should be. Why we use Git? It's an industry-wide tool that's used everywhere, and the reasons I have already mentioned, that many people can work on the same piece of code and you can see that who did what change, and other people can maybe suggest some more changes or maybe tell you that maybe something is a better way of doing things. Okay, this is not related to Git actually. I think, okay, this is in terms of a repository that I use. So we can skip this part. Getting or installing it, if you guys want to install it right now, I think everyone would have it already by now. So on Mac and Linux, mostly people have it already on their system. On Windows, you can install it from this thing. If anyone needs this thing, I'll just put this thing on your chat. Okay. So, and I'll also show. Okay. So this is the place which you can go if you want to install Git on maybe most likely Windows. Because on Mac and Linux or Unix, it's already installed most of the times. But if you still want to install this Git SCM, then you can go ahead and do that as well. But for Windows, you mainly go over there and select the 64-bit or 32-bit setup for Git, and then you just download it, run the installer, and click on next, next, next without changing anything, and Git gets installed. It's not a very big file. Okay? It's around 50 MBs or something, and it won't take too much of time to download and install. So if anyone is not having it right now, you can go ahead and try to install this thing on. Okay? So going further, using Git, let's do it after getting a repository or something. All right, let's start doing something. So let's do one thing. I'll open this thing called as Git Bash. So there are two modes of Git. One is a Git GUI, all right, and one is your option, which is for command line, which is called as Git Bash, all right. Mostly, today or right now, we will be using this Git Bash or the command. Understand what commands are there and what. But there is another option to do via a thing, GUI also. So actually, people use it, getting ever, but mostly people try to use the CLI. Okay. Whenever we talk about Git, so you would often listen on thing called as saying something. For example, if anyone wants to ask something, so on your person, it person is not on. So first thing, listen carefully, that you need to understand is a repository. Okay. So what is a repository? Repository is basically a piece or a place where you put all your code, central place from where you create copies of the code, or maybe multiple people use the same piece of code, but it is like a place where everything is put or stored, a common place. Once we have this common place, what we call as a repository, all right, from this repository, you can create something called as a clone or a copy of that code. Okay? So repository is a central place where everything is stored and maintained. Okay? And you can create something called as a clone of a repository for your own usage. Now the thing, this repository can be hosted on a server or a platform or a service provider, something like GitHub or GitLab, all right? Or this repository can be created on your local system as well, all right? So both things or both options are available. Both the things are there. So repository mainly implies a place where you have all the things stored and where you refer or where you add all the changes at the end. All right. So in our case, we'll be first seeing how to create a repository on your system itself, an empty repository, or when you create a repository for the first time. Because repositories are not something like that magically appears from somewhere. Someone has to create a repository, all right, for the first time. And then people start adding or contributing to that repository, and then it. But for the first time, you have to create it. So to create an empty repository, what we'll do, so this is my desktop folder. Okay, this CLI or this terminal is open on desktop. All right. What I'll do is, so since this repository is basically a folder, so first what I'll do is I'll create a folder on the system. So you can either do like this, like right click, create new folder or something, or you can use this git CLI, which has Linux commands, mkdir, let's say temp underscore. Okay, I'm naming it temp repo. The name of folder is temp. Name of repository is not temp. Okay. Now you see this folder got created, and we can say cd temp underscore repo. All right. Right now there is a command in Linux called as ls. Okay, so if I go to this folder, you can see this folder is empty. Is there? Similarly, on the this ls command, ls means list whatever is there inside this folder is also showing here. All right. If I do ls, okay, I'll just leave it. Now there is a command called as git init. Okay. Git init is basically used to create something called as an empty repository. So when the first time you create a repository, you put git init, and empty repository gets initialized. If you see this folder, you can see nothing is present over here. It looks completely empty. But if I do ls over here, it's still empty. There is another command called as ls minus -la. So now what happens is, once I create a repository into any folder or wherever there is a repository, a Git repository, we are talking about Git. So in that case, you will see a folder called as .git created on your file system. Normally, your operating systems don't show that those folders and files which start with a dot. They don't list that thing. Okay. So if you just do ls means show the files, it doesn't show. So you have to use a special command ls minus la on Linux thing, which is a Linux command. La is a flag to list the hidden files also. A means all. So it shows me that there is a folder called as Git. All right. And Git is a folder which you will and you should never modify. Okay? You will never need to modify. This is actually the core of the heart of a repository. This is where all the information about the history of all the files is stored. This is this Git folder. So you don't do any modifications to this Git folder, but when you run a command, git commit, git git add, or git reset or something, or you do git pull or git pull or something. So all that happens via this git folder. The entire history is present in this folder. So you never delete or modify this folder yourself. All right. So you can see that there is nothing still visible inside this folder. The reason is that Windows won't show the folders which are starting with a dot. That's the reason. So if you do ls minus la, then it would still show it upon your system. All right. Till this point, this idea of a repository is fine, guys. Cool. Now, what happens is, so this is a local repository. This is present on my system. Now, what happens is some people want to, if I put some code, let's say I do, there is a command called as Git Status. You guys would have already seen. Okay. So Git Status basically tells me what's happening in the repository. So right now it says no commits yet. Nothing is there. All right. Another command is Git log. Git log tells like what's the history or the log, whatever happened in your repository. So since till now nothing has happened, so there's nothing. So it says your current branch master has no commits yet. It's saying it's empty. Now if I go and let's say I add a new folder, say okay. If I do ls, now this folder is listed, okay, but if I do ls minus l, it will show the .git folder as well. Now if I do, I have added a folder, but if I go and say git status over here, it still doesn't show anything. It doesn't say that a folder has been added or any change has been done. Like normally what happens is Git will start tracking, we call it as tracking, or like it will start considering a folder only if you add a file to that folder. Okay, let's say file, that file can be any kind of file. Now if I go here and I say git status, okay, now it says no commits yet, but it says untracked files. So what is an untracked file? I'll explain. But now you can see this folder is listed. So if you create a new folder, that folder will appear inside git status only when you have added some files to that. Okay. Another thing is right now I am inside this temp repo. Okay. So if you go anywhere inside this temp repo, for example, if I do ls and the command to go inside this folder 1 is cd folder 1. See, this path got updated. Now I am inside this folder temp repo folder 1. And there is another called as pwd. Pwd tells me in which folder I am currently. Okay. So if you want to do, or if you do a git status inside this folder as well. Okay. So even then it will work, and it says like you can add the current folder by doing a dot slash. Dot slash means the current folder, but still your git status command doesn't give an error. It still works. It tells you something, no commits yet or untracked files. But if I come outside this folder, now I am in temp repo folder and I do pwd, you can see this is the path. If I do git status, it still works. If I come outside this folder and then I do a git status, pwd, I'm outside this temp repo folder, the repository that I gave. If I do git status now it says fatal not a git repository. Because for Git to work or the Git commands to work, you need to be inside a Git repository or a folder which contains a Git repository or which acts as a Git repository. You can even say like there is no .git folder. It tells you that it doesn't have a Git folder. All right. So now if we go to cd temp repo and we do Git status, now you can see that it doesn't say fatal, not a Git repository, because this is a Git repository. All right.
Got one question here.
Yeah.
So for me to initiate a Git inside a directory, I just have to say Git init.
Yes. Yeah, it will create a new repository, a new fresh repository.
Okay.
Okay. All right. So this is about creating a repository from a command line. All right, but this repository still stays in your local. To add it to something called as a GitHub or something, you need to do something, but I'll explain you later. That's not that important right now, because mostly you create repositories online or via the website or the tools, the platform that you're in. All right. So this is some idea of a Git repository. Now, if you will see, now let's talk about few terms. I haven't completed this PPT yet, but I'll mention them. So there is something called as tracked files, something called as untracked, something called as modified. I think Git says something else for what I'm writing as modified, and something called as staged for commit. I'll tell you the exact terms. I'll correct them if I am wrong something. So right now, what you see is there is when I do Git status, it says that we have some untracked files. So untracked files means is when I was saying that Git creates or maintains a history of files. So does it maintain for each and every file? No. What you do is whenever you create a new file or folder, you have to first tell Git like start tracking this file or folder. Okay, so that's what this term says, untracked files. So Git is not tracking, or it's right now it's not keeping track of this file or folder. All right. So to have it keep track, we need to move that file to the tracked setting or to the tracked part of it. All you do is, so there is this command called as git batch that you would have used. You add the folder name or the file name. If you add a folder name, it will add that entire folder. If you add a file name, it will add only that file. Once I do this git add folder one, okay. Now important thing is these paths are relative to my current location. For example, if I am inside this temp repo and this folder one is inside temp repo, okay. So I do git add folder one. Let's say I wanted to add only let's say cd folder one. Let's go over here and see visually. So this is your temp repo. I was inside this temp repo, so I say git add folder one. But let's say there were multiple files inside this folder, and I would have wanted to add only, let's say, 2 or 3 files. Let's create some more. Say cp folder one slash file one, folder one slash file. Okay, and let's create file 3 also. So now 3 files are created in total: file 1, file 2, and file 3. File 1 I have already added. These files are empty right now. They don't contain anything, but I have added these files. Now, if I want to add a file right now, I am in the temp repo folder. I can do git add folder 1 slash file 3. I can add only a single file, but since I am doing it from temp repo, so I have to add the complete path from the temp repo with respect to temp repo. So it is present in folder 1 and then the file 3. So remember this thing, guys. Now, if you keep track of what I am doing, so I have added git add folder 1. So only one file was there at time, file 1. So it got added. Then I created 2 more files, file 2 and file 3, which are copies of file 1. Everything is empty right now, and I added only file 3. So ideally, as per how Git works, once you add a file, it should show that file as either staged for commit or maybe something else. Let's see what it actually shows. Git status. Now, if you see, it shows it as changes to be committed. All right, and there is one untracked file. Once you do git add, I am telling it like start tracking, or from now or this point onwards, you need to track of this file state or this trade file, do any modifications. But this thing is called as a staging area. Staging means you have told Git like I want to track these things, but you haven't yet finalized the changes, or you haven't told like now from this point onwards, whatever changes I have done till now, save it under a tag or maybe with a name or something. Okay? Because when multiple people do multiple changes, you need to have some differentiation that this change was done and it had this ID or identifier through which you can identify. So when you do a git add, this thing moves to something called as a staging area. Staging area means all the changes have been tracked by Git, but they have not been saved with a unique ID. Save with a unique ID, we use a git command called as git commit -m, and let's say first commit. All right. Once we do this thing, what it does is it adds these things to your Git's history. And if you do a Git log right now, earlier it was giving an error. It shows there is this is the commit ID actually. In this thing that you are seeing, this weird big number alphanumeric thing. This is called as a Git commit ID. All right, and it says commit over there. So this is the commit ID. So it tells you at what time it was done, this thing, and what message they put over here. So it maintains all the history of all this. Okay, it's clear, guys?
Before doing that, how would this bash know where we are pushing our code? I mean, do we have to link our account using some SSH keys or something like that?
This thing, yes. So this thing, see, there are different how different platforms behave. But what we'll do after this is we'll use GitHub and see how to connect to a remote repository and then work on that. Right now, all this is on a local repository or my own repository, which is not even on a remote system. This is on my own system itself. Okay? Getting some idea? Remote means that I am maintaining the actual source code or all the folders with their history on some other computer or some other system on my system.
Load का task का SB percentage निकाल.
Puneet, you are saying something?
Task का SB percentage निकाल.
Your voice is not. It has like an.
ये announcement के क्या पसंद है यार साला दिमाग खराब कर दिया पूरा.
क्या हुआ?
Added का. वो साला मैं चुप तो जल्दी.
All right. So is this clear, guys? How to do a commit? So first thing is you understand what is a repository. Repository is this thing or this folder with the .git folder which contains the history, and there is something called as track files. There is something called as untracked files, and there is something called as a staging area. Okay. Now once this is done, if I do Git status now, so you see that those files which it was showing in green, which were on the staging area, call it as staging area, they are gone because I've committed them or saved them. Now it only shows untracked files. Okay. Now if I go over here and I do some modifications, let's say I write some text over there. I'll save this thing. I have closed it. Now if I go and do Git status, now you see there are two sections. One is changes not staged for commit and one is untracked files. Okay, changes not staged for commit means once I add some file to Git, so it starts tracking it. And if I do any modifications to a tracked file, so then it shows it under the changes not staged for commit. It tells me that I have modified this file, okay, but I haven't added it to the staging area or I have not saved it permanently using a commit. And second thing is the untracked file. Again, untracked means I haven't told it to start saving the history of this file. So these are two different things. Is this clear, guys? The difference between untracked file, a staged file, and an unstaged file. Is this clear? Any question right now? Okay. So once you have done some changes to a file, often what you want to do is, right now it is only one file with one single change. All right. Often you want to see that you modify maybe 10 files and you want to see what all modifications you have done. So there is a command called as git diff. Okay. So if you just type git diff, it tells you what changes you did, which file. Okay. For example, this is file1.txt, and it is telling me that I have plus means and green means I have added some line to this file. If I delete something, then it will show me with a minus and a red. And when I do git diff, it will show me the changes done to all files. For example, let's say this is the file and something or something. I just add something over there, and then I go there and I git diff again. Now it will. Okay, I think file 2 I haven't added to the staging area yet or to the commit. So let's modify file. Okay. So it will show you the diff or the changes done only to the tracked files which you have already committed. If I do git status now, it shows me that file 1 and file 3 have been modified. It says modified. Okay? And if I do git diff over here, it says that file 1 has only one line added and file 3 has this much of additions over. If I go and say git add, let's say folder 1 slash file 1 .txt, and I do git status. Okay, I'll start writing this command first. Git diff. Okay, and once I do this thing, you can see that this file has now moved to the staging area. Okay, which is changes to be complete. And this is not yet staged for commit, and this is an untracked file. So we can see three different files that Git is tracking, things status or things that Git is showing. If I do git diff right now, it will show me the diff only of this file, which is modified, but which is not added to the staging area. Okay, it shows me the diff of only this file, but not of the file. All right. Okay. Is there still a voice issue, guys, for everyone?
Yes.
Okay.
Actually, your voice is like a bit low.
Yeah, even we are not getting catch.
So it's better if wait for check. How is it now, guys? It's still not better than the one option I tried. Is it clear now, or it's still same?
Hello.
Hold on, guys. Give me one. Guys, now how is it? Is it better or is it still that bad?
Yeah, it is fine.
Is it better or no? It should. It's so you guys get till now what I was saying about the staging area, modified files, unmodified files, and everything.
Hi, Gaurav. Hi, Gaurav.
Yeah.
Girish this side.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just want to ask if we haven't done any commit yet, right?
We have done.
You have done a commit.
So I did one. I did a git commit, and then I did a git log to check the log history of all the. So I have done only one commit, in which I have added two files, which is file 1 and file 2, but those files were empty at that.
Okay, those files were empty.
Yes. So after doing that commit, I modified these files and I added something inside those files. Okay. And after doing all of that, I added one file and it went to your staging area. And the second file, which is file
Because
3.e,
when the last Git status is done, it is showing changes to be committed, and it is showing for one file and changes not to be staged.
Yeah, so now what happens is, see, I modified this file and I modified this file also. Both files I modified. But I said git add for only this file. Okay? So once you do git add, only then the file moves from this not staged section to the changes to be committed section. Okay? So, but git add doesn't mean that your file is committed or saved. It is still not committed. But just saying that, okay, add it to the staging area. Staging area means a place where whatever you have added, when you will do a git commit, all of those changes will get saved. All of them will get saved. Fine now? Still have. So we're talking about git diff. So now I have files in 3 stages. One is your staging area, which is this, where your added files show up. One is your on staging area or tracked files which have not been added yet, and one is your untracked files. So if I do git diff right now, is the font visible, guys? This thing it is not visible.
It is visible.
So if I do git diff now with this status of files, can you see now that file 3, it is showing only the git diff of file 3 that I have added these lines. It is not showing me the diff of file 1 because I have added to the staging area. So if you want to see the diff only of the staged files or the files added to staging area, you can say git diff -- dash. These are some flags and it tells you the diff or the changes that you have done to files present inside this staging area. Okay? So there are 2 options. One is git diff and one is git diff -- cache. So the command is git. And this is a very useful command, okay, when you are writing normal code, not in case of Jupyter Notebook. Reason is when you are writing normal, they are just files like text files or something. Okay? But when you are doing some changes in a Jupyter Notebook is not a normal text file. It contains something called as a JSON. It's JSON encoded. If you do a git diff of a JSON file, of a PDF file, or maybe any kind of binary executable software file, you see some garbage, or maybe Git won't even show you the diff. That might happen. Okay? So you do normally diff on text files or something which contains normal text that you can make sense of just by looking at. Right? So this is your git. If I do git status again, what I'll do is I'll do git add and let's say folder 1/. So when I do git add folder 1/, whatever files are there inside that folder, they will go to this staging area, changes to be committed section. So git status will now show me this thing. And if I do git commit -m, let's say second commit, all of these files which are in green will get saved by a single commit ID, which is that hash ID, and all of those files will get added to that commit. So it says second commit and git status if I do. Now there is no new file or untracked file because I've added everything to that. If I do a git log, now you will see 2 logs. One is this commit, which is this with this commit ID, and another one is with this commit ID, and there is some message over it. Alright, is this clear, guys? So whenever you do a commit or whenever you do save, you ask to save it. So it tracks like what changes you have done and what happened. For example, if you want to see what changes you did, you can say git if let's say I put copy this commit ID, this one, and it's not showing. I think you need to commit ID of this commit. Yeah. So now what it does is when you do git commit and you put the commit ID, it tells you whatever changes you have done after that commit. So it shows that in file 1 I added this thing, in file 2 I added this thing, in file 3 I added same thing. All right. So you can check the history, whatever changes you did in some files. All right. And sometimes you may want to go to an old commit. You may want to the state of files at this point, whatever was the state of files. Or maybe if you had 100 commits, you might want to 10 commits backwards. So you can do that also. There are commands for that. So that's the entire usability of the Git. You can go backwards in your history, you can undo files, and you can do a lot of stuff with Git. So that's the entire usability of this Git. Use Git commit and history is all right. This much clear, guys. This is we are doing only in local. Next, we will go to your GitHub and maybe we'll try, and you may also try. You will try something on actual GitHub, right? Like how we did earlier, but I'll explain some.
Hi, Gaurav, can you explain this again? How to go back to the previous version?
Okay, so first you have to determine which version you want to see. Say git log, and from the log you get the commit history. And from there you have to specify or tell Git like which commit you want to. So there is a command called as git reset. Okay, and after that you can say something like, I'll explain you with the Git actual repository itself better, I guess. When with a repository that's on GitHub. Okay, is it fine? How to go back to an old simple you can go back.
Gaurav, I have one question.
Yes.
My question is like, if we have many commits, then it's like tough to go through the full log. So is there any option so that we can see a particular day or something like on a date? If I want to see the log for one particular date or a date range?
I think there should be a command, definitely. I don't use that command. So Git. Actually, I get log history is very small. Okay, check logs in date range. Actually, happens is you can even search through the logs. For example, if this commit history was long, what you get is a editor kind of thing in the terminal itself. And in that editor, you can search in the logs that what name or what tag you want to search. So say git check commits. They have this flag since and after and all of that. And in what format you want to specify that also. Specify. Has someone given an example? Oh. Specify like after and until. You can even specify the author. Everything is there. Okay. And ascending and descending order is also there. They have an option. So most of the things in Git or your Git this command, which is your Git, most of the things will be available via some flags. So this author is a flag, you are specifying which author you and
Hey Gaurav, Prakash here.
yeah, Prakash.
So, is there any command to get all the history of particular file?
All the history of a particular file. I think there is. I used it once. For particular file, normally one option is, for example, for me, how do I check the history of a particular file is I don't check via the command line. What I do is when I'm working on a repository, for example, let's take this repository, okay? And let's say I do file.
Voice is not clear.
For everyone, guys.
Yeah, I think, are you using some headphone or something? Maybe that's the reason, because you have changed the network so many times.
That's
No. No. Is the audio is the audio clear now? Guys, is there or I cannot. Is it there now?
यूट्यूब वगैरह कुछ ना रखा है नहीं? इंटरनेट इतना कम खराब क्यों चल रहा है? Hey guys, is it is it clear now or not? Otherwise, I think we may have to take some.
Yeah, able to hear you now.
Sorry, I couldn't get you.
It's better now, Gaurav.
Better now. All right. Okay, fine. So let's continue then. Is it really better, or you're just saying, guys? I want to confirm actually. Because
better.
Better now.
Now it's
it
better.
is okay.
Actually,
Better,
it's
or
better
is it like good? Because I have another option then. I can try that as well.
Clear, it is clear.
Okay, fine. So till now we were discussing about this local repository. All right. So any questions or doubts on the local repository? We'll then move to GitHub and then set up a repository over there. And then we'll talk a bit about branching. I'll explain you what is branching and all of that. Anything you want me to do right now on this repository, let me know. Fine, guys, then. We'll leave this repository right now. One important thing is there's a notion of something called as Git Remote. Okay. Right now we haven't done, or you haven't seen any command that you would have normally seen me asking you to do, or you would have normally used something called as a Git push or a Git pull. Okay. The reason is because this is a repository on my local and there is no remote or an actual repository which this repository is referring to or which this repository is linked to. This is the main repository itself. And I'm doing modifications to it directly. All right. So there is a command in Git called as Git Remote. Okay. And you can see right now when I type Git Remote, it doesn't do anything. It's empty. There's no remote attached to this repository. So when I create a repository on GitHub or on any platform, or even on this repository, I can attach something called as a remote to a repository. All right, I'll show you with an example. What we'll do is we'll first go over here and create a new repository on GitHub. So on GitHub, you can just go to this page on your profile page and then click on this plus sign to create your own custom repository. We'll go this new repository button and let's say git score 1. Let's try this thing. And you see, when I'm creating this repository, GitHub gives me two options. So this is specific to GitHub and these platforms. This has nothing to do with Git, the tool that we are using. So it gives me an option to create a public repository and create a private repository. So public is basically means you guys and anyone can see it on the internet or modify it as it says. Private repository is basically generally what organizations use for keeping their code base. So if you're working somewhere and they use this GitHub platform, so they would be using a private repository, not a public repository for their main code base. All right. And when you create this repository, normally what happens is this repository is empty initially, just like how I had created that repository on my local and that folder was empty. So that repository is normally empty in that case. If you want, you can, this GitHub gives you an option to initialize this repository with a Readme. Readme is basically, are you guys aware of what a Readme file is? What it actually does in Git or Git kind of systems? Anyone?
No idea.
No? Okay. So normally, let's say I go to, let's say on Git, let's say we go to PyTorch Git repository. All right. So Git load. Once you go to this repository, or whenever you have some repository, you see this thing is displayed on that repository. Some information about that repository, how to download that repository, how to use that repository, and a lot of things. Okay. Installation about NVIDIA drivers, many things are there, how to build this library from source if you're installing and everything. So this all comes from this file called as Readme. So your platforms like GitHub and GitLab and everything, what they do is if you put a file in your repository with a name readme.md, the extension is md. md is something called as Markdown. So what it would do is it would just go and display that in proper formatted way in your repository's homepage. So this is your repository's homepage, and it automatically picks and renders on your screen. So this is your readme.md, and that's what this thing is asking me, that add a initial file to my repository called as readme.md. So initially my repository won't be empty if I check on this box. Okay, you can try this on your account also right now if you want. Do you guys want to try?
Hi, Gaurav.
Yeah.
Yeah, is it like a Markdown in Jupyter Notebook?
Yes.
It's a compilation of Markdown in
Yes,
Jupyter
yes,
Notebook.
yes. MD means Markdown. Yeah, correct. Exactly.
It's the Readme file is a compilation of all the Markdown content in the Jupyter Notebook.
Yeah, yeah. No. You are saying that in a Jupyter Notebook, all the Markdown content would come here.
Okay.
No. It's not like that if you are saying that. You see, I'll show you what this readme.md contains. So once I click on this readme.md, it displays like this over here. Okay. But if you click on this raw button means it will show you what exactly is contained inside this file. So you see inside it contains this thing. And the format in which this thing is written is called as Markdown notation. So Markdown means when you put some symbols, for example, a bracket or something, it fetches this URL and displays that image. And similarly, dash means a bullet point and all of that. So Markdown is a way of creating like a formatted document, which is, when you visually look at it, appears formatted by certain symbols, by putting certain symbols in the text itself. Now you see it looks very different. It doesn't look as beautiful as it was looking over here. Okay, so this is your readme.md. So it's a description, or you tell about what this repository is, what kind of code it contains, and what it is intended to do, how to use it, and everything. Basically, you see all these steps are mentioned over here also. So whatever repositories you will come across on GitHub, ideally, if you create your own repository also, you should add a readme.md file. For example, if you would have seen the repositories that I have shared with you guys, you would see a readme.md file over there also. And because of that readme.md, you are able to see all of this. So if I go and click on this readme.md and I click on raw, so then you see that it doesn't look like what it was appearing over there. Okay, and those book images are coming from these websites actually. Okay, get it now? What's a readme.md? All right, so what we'll do over here is for this repository, we'll keep it public right now, but we can have private repositories also, or because if I keep it private right now, then I'll have to give access to everyone to do some changes we want to do. And I'll leave this option unchecked, which is initialize this repository with a readme. I'll leave it blank. Now I'll create this repository. Once I create this, now what happens is, now this git underscore one, this is a repository, or you can say a single folder that's available or hosted on this platform called as GitHub. It is not on my local system right now. Okay, and now it tells that to set up this repository or to add something for the first time, I have to follow these steps. So you can see it is telling me that you have to do a git init first. All right, so what it says is or create a new repository on the command line, or push existing repository from the command line. And you can see there is a command called as git remote add origin. Fine. So normally what happens is, once you create a repository, you would find a repository already populated with data, and you would do a command like which I asked you to do. You do a git clone of this repository normally. For example, if I copy this command from here and I go to my desktop and I open a new git bash over here, let's say git bash. You see this is on my desktop, and I do git clone, and then I paste this URL over here, let's say like this. Then this thing appears over here, but it tells you that this is a empty repository, nothing is there. And if you go to the CD, yes, it will look empty on Windows, but if I say CD git1 and I do ls -la, so you see git folder is there, but no files are there. Nothing has been added. And if I do a git log, nothing would come up because I haven't added anything. It's just like that empty repository, but it is hosted on this GitHub platform right now. Okay. And if you read these instructions, it says like, if I want, I can add files to this. Like first I can clone, then I can add some kind of file, then commit, and then add a remote to this thing. Okay, so if I do a git remote over here inside this repository, or let's close this folder that I just cloned. Let's go to our old repository and try to push these files to this repository, which is on Git. Okay, so if I do git remote over here, or as I did earlier, it's empty right now. If I go here, I have already added the commits, so I don't need to add much right now. And if I go and say git add origin, and I paste this command over here. So I am telling Git that this local repository is linked to this remote repository, which is present on this GitHub platform. And how does it Git know? Because when I say git remote add, so it is telling that add a remote means a location which is not on my local system. Origin is the name of that remote. So you can put the name apart from origin something else also, that's possible. And this is the URL or the location of this repository, which is actually the location or the web URL of this repository. And once I hit enter and I do now git remote, it will show me that sorry, remote is already added. I do only git remote. Now it shows there is a remote called as origin. If you do git remote -v, v means verbose, it will print more information. So it says that there is a origin which is set to this URL, which is for fetching, and second one is for pushing. So when we were using it, we were doing two kind of operations. One is git pull, okay, and one is git push. I'll show both of those operations right now. Then this will make sense to you why there are two options present over here. The name is origin, URL is same, but it still says fetch and push. Two different options are there. I'll explain to you what that means. Once this is done, you see if I reload this thing, still this repository is empty, nothing has changed. And once I do this command, git push -u, push means whatever changes are here on this my local repository, they will be pushed to this remote by default. So when I say git push -u origin master, -u is a flag, means update the using the local origin branch and create a branch called as master on the remote. Remote means this thing. So once I hit enter, so now what it will do is all these files will be moved to a remote branch. So it says that a new branch has been created, and the name of local branch is master, and the name of remote branch is also master. If I go over here and I reload right now, You now see that this folder 1 is present over here. Now all those commands are gone. And if you check this thing, you can see that there are 2 commits also. You can go over here, check the commit history. If you click on a commit, you can see the commit ID or the hash is also shown in this side. You click on there and you can see what all changes were done. Is this fine, guys? Are you getting now?
Gaurav, can you repeat a bit the steps again, please?
Okay. Do you guys want to quickly try this thing out yourself on your system once?
Yes, actually, that's what I'm doing. So
Can you guys quickly, okay, if you are doing that, so whoever wants to try, guys, quickly log into your GitHub account, okay? Go to your root and click on a new repository, this button, and click on new repository. After that, try to follow the steps. If you're stuck at anything, let me know. I'll ask you to share your screen and we can do it on your system so that others can also take help. Fine?
So I have added Git Remote, add origin, and the URL. What is to be done next?
Do you want to
Push
share your
how?
screen? So you have to run this command, git push -u origin space master.
Okay.
Okay. Why we are writing origin? Because in the previous command we did git remote add origin. If the name was something different, we would use that name over here. Okay. So the name is dependent on what remote you added. So normally you would find this as origin only. All right.
So Gaurav, every time whenever we do some changes, we have to add this command, git push origin master.
Normally what happens is, let's do git branch. There is a command called as git branch. So right now, if you see, there is only one branch in my repository, which is called as master branch. Okay, branch is like you are maintaining multiple versions of the same code on the same inside your system. Okay, but you can switch from one version to another directly. So right now there is only one version of code which is on the master branch, and yeah. So not every time you have to do git push origin master. If I do git push now directly, so by default, what it does is it always try to push, like the default format of your git push is like git push origin master. Only the first time you have to do this. Next time onwards, it implicitly picks the current branch, which is your master branch, and it automatically picks origin also. You don't have to type them explicitly.
Okay. So if we create another branch, then we have to mention
Then you
for
have
the
to
first
do.
time.
Yeah.
Okay.
See, there are 2 options. One is, for example, I can do git push -u origin. Okay, guys, look at my screen once. Leave your system and see here. Right now, if you see, there is this button present over here, which shows branches, and there is only one branch over here, master, and it says this is the default branch. Okay, there's a button view all branches, but if I click that, only one branch would be shown, updated 30 minutes ago by me when I created that folder, files and everything. If I do git push -u origin, let's say master, or let's say dev, what does it say? Fail to push. Why did that happen? Does it need some access? Okay, I missed one thing. I think the syntax should work. So what I'm saying in this case is that my local branch is master. Okay, I'll tell you what's happening. If I do git branch right now, you see that on my system there is only one branch right now, which is master. But when I do this git push origin master colons this thing dev, so what I'm saying is push my local branch master to a new branch on the main repository by the name what dev. So if I go over here and I reload it now, you will see 2 branches will be there. One is master and one is dev. Okay, and if I do a git pull now, so what will happen is all the branches that are there on the remote should come to the local. Let's say git branch. Okay, that's a problem. Okay, when you do a git pull, only the current branch is updated. For example, if I make any changes or anyone makes changes to master, only those changes will come. There is another command called as git fetch origin. Okay. So what this git fetch should ideally do is should fetch all the branches. Git branch minus a. Okay, yeah. Actually, when I do Git branch like this, so in that case, it shows me only the master branch. But if you want to see all the branches that are there, then you have to use the branch minus a flag. So once I do a git fetch origin, it actually fetches all the branches from the main, from the remote repository to my local also. Okay, and now you can see all these branches are there. And right now, both the branches have the same code. Okay, for example, if you go to this branch and check the code over, check whatever the files are there, both are same in this case. But what we can do is, right now I'm in the master branch. So if I say, let's say, uh, let's modify some file from here. Let's go to this folder. And once that's done, I'll go over here. Let's modify the file number. Okay, and let's remove one line out of the file and let's add some numbers over here. I'll save this thing. Now I go to this thing and I say git status. Okay, so my current branch is master. You can see it showing in green and there's a star over there. All right, so it says that this file is modified, but it's still in the staged area. If I do git diff now, you can see that it's telling me what file, what lines I have removed and what lines I have added, what changes I have done. Basically, I'll do git add. Let's say star. Star means add everything. Normally, we shouldn't use star till the time you are perfectly aware of what you are doing. If I do git status now, it will come in green. Okay. Now I do git commit. This is your normal git workflow, and minus m. Let's call it third commit. And once this is done, git status again. So that is committed, but that is not yet pushed to this repository. Okay, so I am on dev branch and it says this branch is even with master. Even it is telling you what's the difference. All right. Now we come to git folder again. Again, it shows second commit. And once I do a git push, okay, directly, I'm not specifying origin master because by default it considers origin master only. All right. Once this is done, so this branch will get updated. If I reload this thing, now you can see that the last commit is third commit. But if I go to the other branch, which is your dev branch, it is still not updated. It's still on the version which was there. And it says that your branch is one commit behind the master branch. Okay. And once this is done, if I go to this folder and I open this file, you can see these changes are there that I made. Now let's say I am working on one feature that someone asked me to develop, and I don't want to. I am working on maybe 2 or 3 features. So what I do is I create multiple branches of my code. All right. So now if I want to move to a different branch, I do git checkout. There is a command checkout, and I specify the branch name. When you push tab, it often gives you the name of the branch also. So if I do dev, so it will move to that branch. Branch dev set to drag the remote branch dev from origin, switch to a new branch. If I do a git status, or let's say git branch minus a, so it says, is it a new branch? Wait, let me check. Did it create a new branch? I don't think. So if I go to this file now after doing a checkout, now if you open this file, now you see that these changes that I did on the other branch are gone. Why? Because this branch contains old version of code. So whenever you do a git, you do a switch between different branches. So what the git does is it automatically would save whatever changes are there on the master branch and then bring your current code to the state that is as per the branch that you want to switch. So I switched to dev branch. So the changes that are there on master, they will be still saved on your system. But now I can make changes to the dev branch, which can be different from your master branch. For example, I can add a new file. Let's copy this and add a new file over here. Let it be file 4. And I do git status. Git add, let's say folder 1/ and git commit minus m. I don't need to do a git status again and again. That I was just doing to show you guys. Let's say file 4 and git let's say log now. Okay, so now there are 3 commits in this branch, which is your dev branch, and now I do git push. So to make sure that I'm pushing to the, let's do a git push directly, or let's say git push origin space dev, something like this. So once this is done, what would happen is my dev branch will also get updated, but the code or the version of the files on both the branches would be different. So if I reload this branch now, this is dev branch, you see that there are 4 files and there is a different commit ID 4C183. If I switch to this master branch, then there are only 3 files and it says third commit and there is a different commit ID. So I can maintain multiple branches with somewhat different code using your Git. So that's one good feature of Git. And you might often hear about branches when you're working with Git. Is this idea somewhat clear, guys, about branching?
Yes.
After this session, guys, just try to run all this yourself and practice somewhat more on Git. But now remember these terms. There are a lot of terms. I haven't completed the PPT yet, but there are a lot of terms. For example, a branch is a term. These are the states of your things. There is a term remote. There is a term branch. There is a thing called as stash that is not useful for now. Did I mention something else also? Remote, branch, repository I already explained. And okay, these are 2 new terms that I just explained. Is this fine, guys, about remote and the branch? So remote means to what repository your local copy is linked to. So when I do git remote -v, it tells me that this local repository or this folder temp repo, whatever git related things are there in this repository, they're actually linked to this remote repository. So this origin means, and fetch and push over here means if I do any modifications and I do a git pull means it will fetch from this URL. Okay, and if I do a git push, it will push the changes to this URL. And can these URLs be different? Yes, actually they can be different. All right. For example, many of you guys would often see a notion of something called as a fork. For example, once I am logged into a repository, and this is not my repository, this is PyTorch from Facebook. So you can see this button over here called as fork. All right. So this fork means this is not my repository. I don't own it. So how do I work on this repository? All right. So what this fork means is I want to create a copy of this repository. All right. But into my GitHub account. All right. Not into my local, but into my GitHub account. So if I click on fork, so it says forking and everything. What it will do is it will add this repository to the list of repositories into my repository list. Once it is done with forking, I think it's done or not. Let's see. Yeah, so it's done forking. So the actual repository URL was something different. Okay, so if I go to this repository and I click on this button to download this code or to clone this repository, so you see that the URL is github.com/pytorch/.git. And if I go to this thing, to my clone or my fork, is it listing over here? Yeah, so now it shows that PyTorch, it says that it's forked from this place. Some noise. Okay. So it says that it is forked from this place, but if I click on this repository and I check the clone URL, so you can see that the URL is different. It has my username in the middle. So now if I create a clone of this repository, or I say git clone and then paste this URL and I make any changes, so all the changes will come to this repository or this copy. They won't go to this one. All right. And if I actually clone from here using this button, and if I make some changes and I want to push, so all the changes should go over here, but I won't be able to actually push those changes because these guys would have logged the changes to be done directly. You won't be able to do the changes directly. All right. So what I mean is, if you guys clone this repository and try to do changes, I think you will be able to do it directly without needing any permission from me, most likely, if I don't set any permissions. But for this repository, they would have set. So normally what you do is you create a fork of the repository, you do some modifications to your fork, you do modifications over here, then you create a pull request. There is a thing called as pull request from this repository to this repository. Okay, and then people will check your code that the changes you have done, it will show a diff, just like how we see a diff over here, git diff at ~1, let's say. Okay, so this is the change. Similar to this thing, they will be able to see what changes you have done. Then they will maybe give you some suggestions. And once they think that, okay, your changes are good, then they will be doing something called as a merge. They will merge your code from your your fork of this repository PyTorch to the actual PyTorch repository. Then they would do this thing called as a merge. That's the complete work. But that's what happens when you're working. If you guys want, you guys can maybe not PyTorch. Let's go to this test repository that I created one. And so it even shows that if I have pushed any changes. So this is a public repository right now. Let me check the access levels. Can you guys just try to clone it on your system and then make a modification to some file and then see what happens when you try to push? Can you guys quickly try to do that? And for cloning, your command is git space clone space, and from here you copy the URL and you just paste it over here. And when you clone this repository, all the branches come to your system. It's not that you're cloning only for this master branch or something. So when you do a clone of this repository, both the branches will be there. You will just have to switch using the checkout command. So the name of command is git checkout. And git branch and git branch -a, and yeah, many options are these terms. Are you guys going to try right now? Because that's a basic thing on your GitHub. Guys, are you trying right now on your system or not? If you are trying, need any help, let me know. I think better you should try. Do a git clone of this repository, try to modify any file, add it, commit it, and then try to push that change to this repository without creating a fork. Don't create a fork of this repository. Just do it directly on this repository. Let's see what happens. Okay, so if you try to push, I think you guys won't be able to push to this repository directly. So better just try that once from your system. Let me know what happens, and then we'll see what happens when you create a fork and what to do from a fork. Or maybe I'll ask someone to share the screen, and then we'll see what to do. Okay.
Gaurav, it's not. I'm not been able to push. It's showing an error. Error 403.
Access denied, maybe something.
Yeah.
Yeah. So permission denied. So that's the reason. If you see my screen right now, so direct access is not available to anyone. Okay. If you remember, I used to add everyone to the repository earlier also.
Yeah. Yeah.
So this is a public repository. So you can clone or you can download and you can see everything, but you cannot push or make changes to it. Maybe I'll have to give access to make write access also public, but I haven't done that. So now can you share your screen? I want to show something. Maybe we can take your help for that.
Okay, I'm sharing.
Okay, I'll just stop sharing and then I'll enable participant sharing. Yeah, now you can share. Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can see now. So can you go to your GitHub account?
Yes.
So can you click on the fork button on the right hand side? Yeah. Yeah. Now can you click on refresh? Yeah, now it's gone. Yeah. So now go to this code option and click on the, yeah. Now try to clone this one. Or let's do one thing. Instead of creating a separate clone, what we can do is we can add one more remote. Okay. Let's try one thing. To the same repository, you can add one more remote. So just do one thing, git add, git remote, git space remote, space add. What do you want to call it? Let's say origin one, or let's call it upstream, UPSTREAM. These are some common names people use. Now put a space and paste the URL. Yeah, now hit enter. Now do git remote -v. V for vanilla. Yeah, hit enter. Now you see there are two remotes. One is for origin, which is the default one, and one is for upstream. And one points to my repository and one points to your repository. Okay. Now try to do git push space upstream space master, or whichever branch you are, whichever branch you want to push, type that. Yeah.
Okay, it's working.
Yeah. So now what it does is it doesn't push to my repository, it pushes to your fork. All right. Because when you said git push upstream master, you are saying that push to upstream remote, which is your repository, and push it to the master branch. Now go to your fork. Now you will see. Yeah, now it is saying that, okay, you have made some changes and it is ahead of my actual branch. Now those changes have come. Now if you want to create a pull request, so click on this pull request button on the right hand side thing. Yeah, yeah. Now, if you see, there are many options over here, like this comparing changes, below comparing changes. It is saying base repository is this, master head repository is this. So what it means is you can see there is an arrow over here in the middle. A bit up. Yeah,
okay.
yeah,
So,
over here. So it is telling you that you are putting changes from your repository. On the right hand side, it's saying your repository to my repository. All right.
okay.
And scroll down a bit. So it tells you what all commits are there and what changes you did. You removed this line and you added this much changes. All right.
Mhm.
And now if you feel like everything is good, then what you can do is you can click on create pull request. And once you do that, yeah. Yeah. Now, once this is done, you can see there is a one pull request showing up over here. And now if you go to my repository, okay, this is mine. This is mine actually. If you see the URL on top.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now you have to share again.
Okay, no, yeah, but still you can see that there is a pull request. This is created by you, but this is on my repository. You can see the URL is my name. All right, it's not your
Where?
name in the URL. See on top,
Yeah.
yeah. It's my
Yeah.
repository. So now this pull request is on my repository. Okay, now I'll start sharing.
Okay, I'm just stopped.
Yeah. So now once I come to my repository, that's what we were seeing on your screen also. So there is this pull request section, and I can see that there is a test commit over here. And now what I can do is I can go ahead and review this pull request, and we can have a reviewers list also, that who all wants to review your pull request or want to give suggestion. And you can see that it says this branch has no conflict with the base branch, and I have an option of merge pull request. So once I click on this merge pull request, what will happen is your code changes will get added to my repository, and I can also see your changes that you have done. I can see how many commits you pushed, only one commit you pushed, what changes you did, from which branch you pushed the changes, it's your username and your branch name. Then any conversation, for example, I go to your code and I say like, I want to give a comment over here, something like, got it, and I can say something like, please don't add blank lines. Okay, and then I can click on start a review, and I can do something, and I can ask you to do some changes on this pull request. So if I go over here, commits, and this thing, in the conversation thing, you can see like I have started a review, and I can submit a review. I can either approve or I can ask you to make changes, something like that. So I'll just click on approve for now. I'll submit review, and right now this thing is still not merged. After this, if I do merge pull request and I click on confirm merge, then once this is done, I will go to the code, and whatever changes you did, whatever commit you mentioned, that would also come over here. So this is folder 1, and it shows that I merged a pull request from your repository. And I think this is the file, which file you changed, this one, I guess, file 1.
First one.
And you can see your changes have come up over here. So this is the normal workflow, how the entire GitHub and Git system works. Like people make a pull request, people create a fork of their own, then they make changes to the fork, then they create a pull request on the actual repository, and then someone reviews it, and then it gets merged once everything is fine. All right. But normally when we were working on the repository that I shared to you guys earlier during the sessions, so in that repository, you guys were able to directly push. There was no review or nothing. Nothing was happening. So that's one thing. All right. Now, yeah.
One thing, I can't see your comment.
Okay, you cannot see my comment because I did a direct approval. So what you do is you go to pull request, and PR, let's remove this, is open flag. I want to see all PRs, and there is my comment over there. All right. In the actual pull request, you will be able to see the comment.
Okay.
All right. In the conversation section. So different tools can show differently, but yeah, GitHub is quite widely used, so it's fine. I'll show you one last thing, guys, and after that, if you want to ask me something, let me know. Now you see that Saurav has made some changes, all right, to one file, which is this file, file1.txt. If I go to my local, let's say I go to Git Status and I do Git checkout master, I first go to master branch, all right. And once that's done, so what I'll do is, if I do a git log, all right, I have only 3 commits, whereas after merging, there are a total of, you can go and check the history also on corner, there are 4 commits. If I do a git pull, then this change will also come to my local. But if I say, let's say I modify this file, which is file1.txt, I go there and I also edit this file. Let's say I add my name and I just close this file. I have modified it and the remote is also modified. Now if I say git status, git add folder 1 this thing, git commit -m, and then I say git push and origin master. Okay, I want to push to master branch, and I can do directly because this is my own repo. Once I do this thing, it will fail actually. It would say ref something failed to push some ref. Reason is it's saying that your updates were rejected because the remote contains work that you did not have locally before pushing to git pull. Now what happens is, if I do a git pull, what system would try to do is, it will try to do something called as merging of 2 files. The reason is there are some changes which are done already on the repository. Okay, so let's go there and see carefully. On repository, the file looks like this. Okay, some text and changes made by Saurav. And then if I go over here and I see my file, it contains, okay, this thing is added by Git right now. So my file contains some text and my name only, nothing else. Now when you say git pull, the old version of the file that Git new, that is changed, and the new version that is coming from the remote, that is also different. So it doesn't know what to keep. So what it does is it tries to merge the two files, and if some errors are there while merging, it doesn't know what to do, then it says there is a merge conflict. And whenever there is a merge conflict, what you have to do is you have to fix that merge conflict, and it marks your conflicting changes by these arrows. So it's saying that this is my local change, and this is the change that came from the remote. Now I can decide whether first I need to remove all this. Okay. Now I can decide whether to keep this change or remove one of the line. Let's say I want to keep both the lines. Okay. And in a different order. In a different order means like this. Maybe this line first and then my line. Now I save it. I close it. Now if I do git status, it says both modified. Now I do git add folder one something, git commit -m. I add a message also, let's say local merge. Okay, once this is done, I can say git push. So many times what would happen is this thing actually happens. Some person modifies the file that you have changed, you are also changing, but they have committed their changes have been merged to the main repository, but yours haven't. You are yet to make a pull request, or yours are the changes which are going to be merged later. So in that case, this conflict happens. And some guys might have seen this conflict on their system also when they were working on a repository. So this is how you normally fix. There are other ways also of fixing a merge conflict, but normally you do this thing. You first let the system have the merge conflict, then you check which file had a conflict, then you go ahead and fix that file, then you add that file, commit that file, and then do a push. So this is how you normally fix a merge conflict. So when multiple people are modifying the same file, and this very much often happens. Okay, so this is somewhat important when you're actually working with it with some people.
Gaurav, if the changes are very big, like if it is a file containing hundreds of lines of codes, then is this the way we have to fix it? Because then tracking the thing will be a bit difficult, I guess.
Yeah, actually, this is how you fix. That's the thing. So that's a problem actually. So that's a big problem. That's why we have this tool like it. Otherwise, normally what would happen is if someone has made a change and the other person adds their change later, so the old person's change might go away completely. But because of it, we are able to figure out like there is a conflict and someone now needs to take responsibility of fixing that. So it doesn't go unnoticed. Yeah. So you have to actually fix. But yeah, this can be done in terms of code files. For example, this is a normal text file. I can modify this. Can you modify a Jupyter notebook? No. It's not possible. All right. For example, if we go to a Jupyter notebook, I'll show you what exactly internally a Jupyter notebook looks like. So we go to say, let's open any IPNB file and we'll click on raw. So this is how internally a Jupyter notebook looks like. This is a JSON. So if two such kind of files have a conflict, will you be able to merge them? It's going to be super tough, guys. It tells you what kind of cell it is, and you might not have seen this anytime till now. All right. So can you merge two Jupyter notebooks? No. That's why I used to ask you guys to not modify an existing Jupyter notebook and push it. So because you won't be able to merge it actually. So some things can be fixed, some things cannot be. Then you have to decide what needs to be done. But yeah, you will be knowing what to do in those cases. It's everyone, you can take help from someone. Yeah. So this is the entire Git system, guys. How the things work. Any questions you want to ask right now? This is not the entire thing. This is some chunk that is quite frequently used across industry. There are many more things. You have something called as Git squash. Set. Okay, one more thing I missed. Git log. Let's say I want to go to an older change. Okay. let's say I want to go to this change. I can say git check. Now you see when I do git log, since there is more log, so I have a scrollable thing, and you can see there is a colon. After colon, if I want to search something, I can say escape slash, let's say, okay, it's not taking. Okay, so when I say slash column, it looks for that thing. So you can search for things inside this history also if you. Okay. So now we will exit this thing, and I have copied that commit ID. So if I say git checkout, and I paste that commit ID over here. So now it is in detached head state, but what you can do is you can create a different branch itself from a commit ID. You can say git switch, and you can create a new branch after doing this thing. So if I do git, if you go to this folder now and you check the files now, it will be in the state. Which commit have I checked to? Okay, the head is now at the merge commit, so there's nothing happening over there. Let's take this commit and let's say git checkout, and let's put it. Okay, and now if I go and I see these files, so this will be in the state where when it was in the second commit stage. So you can see there's only some text, those changes have gone. So you can go to a previous commit inside your history as well. And there are many commands related to this thing, going to a previous commit and then doing many things. There are lots of things. There is an entire book on all this. Is this good, guys? Want to ask something, let me know. And I had a lot of trouble with the audio.
So Gaurav, that message, I can't find it in Git, but I got an email notification for that message. I can see that.
For the approval thing, yeah. So yeah, that also happens. So if someone does a comment on your pull request or something, then you get some notifications, mail notifications for all of that. That's what's happening on your Git system. Yeah. Now any questions, guys? So this is your some things about Git and some terminologies that are used in Git. Any help you guys need on something that you are doing, that also helps. So, like guys, fine. We close this thing. If you want something from me, you want me to do something, or give some kind of file or something, let me know. I'll add it to the respective repositories. So I think one repository, I'll check which repositories are there, and maybe I'll add those files to those repositories if you need them. And in terms of the PPT, once this is completed, maybe in a day or two, I'll add this PPT itself to this repository which I created today, which is your Git one. Okay. This is our Git _1. I'll add the PPT itself to over here in the top this code. Okay. Fine, guys. And you can see who all is contributing to the code here as well. A lot of information is there, what can be explored. All right, guys, fine. Then follow these steps once yourself, and you can just try this thing as well from your system. You can try this UI also. Once you open this repository from your system, it can tell you what's there, what is case to change, what you can ask it to scan. If I rescan nothing right now, and you have some buttons for doing things. Yeah, you can see there is unstaged changes section, there is staged changes, and there is this another section, and all of that is there. So you can try out this tool also if you want. Okay. All right.
Hi Guru.
Yeah.
Bro, I have a problem when I did a push request.
Mm-hmm.
Show an error.
What is the error?
You fail to push some reference to your URL. HTTP
And
update were
after that,
rejected.
yeah, updates were rejected because your branch is behind or something, it would say, or ahead of some commits. So first you need to do git pull ML, like I showed. When you do a git pull, you might get a merge conflict. So you will need to either fix that or you need to ignore your changes or maybe the changes that are coming from the remote. Okay. Try to do a git pull and then see what happens.
There is no tracking information for the current branch. Please specify which
What it
branch
says?
you want to. If there is no tracking information for the current branch.
There's no tracking information.
Please specify which branch you want to merge with.
Oh, okay. So have you created multiple branches on your system?
Yes, yes.
So you need to actually specify when doing a git pull. Git pull, you can say origin space master. Try that. Git space pull space origin space master. Okay, guys, remaining guys, if you want to drop off, you can drop off. Most like 50% of the guys had already dropped off. So, anyways, thank you guys. Sorry for the trouble with the audio. That was bad today. Anyways, all right, guys. But let's see what's happening on your system.
Could not find remote reference space.
There, it says no remote reference. Do you want to share your screen?
Yes.
Hold. Yeah, you can share now. Okay, so there's no tracking information for the current branch. Say you would have got a pop-up on your system. Yeah. So let's say git okay, you don't have to type space master. So you have two remotes attached. One is my remote and second is also my remote. So both are my remotes. So if you put git pull origin, you can see there is a remote origin attached to this repository. And when you say git pull origin master, refusing to merge unrelated histories. Okay, so your branch has diverged. Did you do some other operations also from Google or something?
Which set up to margin master.
This thing is completely empty. Did you create it right now? Okay, okay. So you're trying to clone the other repository. This one. This weekend DSC weekend one.
Yes,
Is it?
sir.
Oh, see. That this thing that I told you, that Git init and everything, that is only for a new repository, kind of new repository. Once a repository has been created, you don't do this Git init and all that. You do a Git clone. And after git clone, you just copy the URL from repository and then paste it. You don't do this git init and everything. For an existing repository, you don't do it. When you create for the first time, then you do it. Since I've created it already, so doesn't matter. Okay. So for a old repository, what you need to do is, can you go to your browser and go to that repository? Yeah, click on this. Yeah. Now click on code, copy. Yeah. Now let's go outside this folder. Okay, cd dot and git clone. Now if we paste this thing and then see this folder name is same. So I'll create a different folder, dsc underscore. If you put a folder name, it will create in that folder. So now it will clone into this folder. It's taking some time.
Once we have created a repository, then not needed to do all these operations.
No, you don't create your own. Since it is already there, you do git clone. Now we will go to this dsc underscore weekend. And if you do ll, you can see all these files are there. Now you do, let's say, cd assignments. And now you put some folder over here, you add your thing, then you do git add, git commit, and git push. Because this repository is already there. So you clone it, you don't do any init or anything on it. Okay? Because it is already there. Alright, so now you add your things over here, then you do git add, git commit, git push, then it will go to the main repository. Alright. But you haven't added any files over here. First you need to add. Yeah, I think we will be, this recording will be going, but that we'll have to check with Krishna that when this will get uploaded, because I think Abhishek or someone would take care of adding the recording to some place and where also they would be knowing. I'm not aware actually of that. Okay. I'll ask Krishna to update you guys that for the recording where it will. All right.
Then inside, here is my folder name is Farhan.
Yeah.
Inside this folder, I have created a new folder like week 2 assignment.
Can you do ls? Yeah. Okay, that is not there. So first you copy it from your wherever it is, put it in this folder. Okay, so it is in your E drive code / somewhere. So go and paste it there. Then you will be able to see all those things.
Here is.
Yeah, copy this folder.
Copy.
Now go to this folder where this is E code DSC weekend. Yeah. Go to assignments. Go to your folder. Yeah, paste it over here. Yeah, go to this folder again. Delete this .git. This is not needed. Okay. Now go to that tool. Go to Git. Yeah. Now do Git status. Yeah. Now do Git add. Type. Yeah. Press tab. Yeah. Tab. Now do Git status again. See, now it is coming in green. All right. Now it is in tracked state, but in staging area. Now you do git commit -m and put a message. Yeah. Now do git push. Sorry, git. First you need to do this thing. Git config.
Git config.
--. Well, user.name, your username. Type as it is. No, type global. Then space user.name. No, user.name as it is. User.name. Space your username. Yeah. Hit enter. Same do for press up key.
Sorry?
Up arrow. Up arrow key on your system. Yeah, now delete till user.email. Type user.email. Put your email ID.
Use ID which is already configured in my laptop.
I think, yeah, for your GitHub account, whatever ID is there.
For GitHub account.
Yeah, it's better to put for GitHub. Enter. Now do run that same command, git
push.
Yeah. Sorry, now do git commit. Sorry, it gave you error in commit. Git commit. Press up key 3 times, it will come the message. Yeah, now do git push. Now it succeeded. See. Fine. Now it went. All right. So this is how you do the thing. Okay.
Actually, again, when we push the request on this, again change the repository name.
No. So now if you want to do anything, just paste that thing over here inside your folder, do a git add, do a git commit, and do git push. Nothing else needs to be done. First do a git pull, then add your file, then commit your file, then push, like that.
Oh, now onwards.
Yeah.
Actually, on your GitHub account, you have a folder like week 3 assignment, all these. Now it's deleted from your GitHub account.
Yeah, someone was saying it's deleted. Wait. We have what's the name of repository? Weekend 20207119. Wait. I'll check on. Okay, sorry, that's your system. Okay, I'll stop your screen
Gaurav,
share.
one question just.
Yeah.
Where are you going to put this PPT? You just showing us for Git?
Yeah, and Git_1. I'll put it over there.
Okay. Thank you.
But it will take me some time because I haven't completed it yet and I have to put a lot of things.
Okay.
So yeah, actually I just I have to see what all to put over there. Let me
Okay,
go.
we'll be checking it.
So
okay, I'm dropping off.
Okay.
Yeah, bye.
All right. Okay. Thank you. So thanks a lot. So which folder was it? I think
in assignment.
In assignment. Okay.
In assignment folder.
So week 3 assignment.
Yes.
Okay, I think someone messed up with the file.
Solution of week 2 assignment is also deleted.
Okay, what I'll do is I haven't done a git pull in my repository. So this is DSC weekend. I'll do one thing. I'll do a git push on this thing, and those files would come over there. Okay. All right.
Yes.
So I think someone deleted it, or maybe someone did a force push by mistake, and then they removed it completely. I'll fix that. All right. Fine, guys. Okay. 2 more people are there online yet. Okay, great. I thought everyone dropped off. Anything else you guys want to ask? Let me know. Otherwise, guys, we'll also drop off and have a good night. Fine, guys.
Fine.
Okay. Thank you. Bye, guys.
Good night.